Now, I know it's not technically summer yet, okay, but in previous summers, I've tried to do a little bit of apologetics, right? Why do we believe what we believe? We've looked at last summer, I focused a lot, and the summer before even, on science, all right? Scientific reasons, why it's reasonable to conclude that there is a God, okay? Very important stuff. We need to know why we believe what we believe and be armed with some tools to do what the sermon was about this morning, right? To be able to share, to be able to cross over, so to speak, and talk to unbelievers about Christ. Sometimes it helps you be more confident if you have some good arguments and reasons. So throughout the summer, I am going to kind of remind you a little bit of some of the scientific reasons, briefly, so that you can, hearing it once is not the same as being able to share it yourself, is it? Okay, and I realize that. Something that's not scientific reasons for God, but it is a big deal, is this whole problem of evil. Why is there so much evil and suffering in the world? This is a huge reason why many people have a hard time believing in God. Okay? And so over the next few weeks at least, it's going to be at least 3 weeks, we're going to talk about the problem of evil and suffering. Like, why is there so much bad stuff that happens? Okay? All right. What is the problem of evil? Anybody know what the problem of evil is? Kind of already alluded to it. Evil. Evil's a problem, okay? Why is it a problem? Well, think about it. If God is all-powerful, then he has the power to stop evil and suffering. If God is all good, he would want to stop all evil and suffering, right? But the claim then is that because there's so much evil and suffering in the world, God can't be both all-powerful and all good. You see the reasoning here? Now, this is obviously, I'll say it outright, there's a problem with the logic here. And we'll get into why that's a problem, okay? Now, let's say you're talking to somebody. Could be somebody at school. Could be somebody on a sports team. Could be somebody in your neighborhood. Could be a relative. And they say to you this argument. Hey, you say God is all-powerful and that he hates evil. What's up? He cannot be both good and powerful if there's so much bad stuff happening. Let's say you're in a conversation with somebody that says that to you. What do you say? How do you respond? What do you do? Do you have anything you could say? Yeah.
Maybe say God gave us a choice, so maybe when we do stuff that happens and then we also sin, that will cause suffering.
Maybe God gives us a choice, and so maybe it's us that's the problem, not God. Okay.
Kind of add on to that, he wants us to remain faithful to him through suffering, when Satan shoots fiery darts.
Right. Yeah, I wrote down something this morning during one of the songs. You guys remember the song from this morning? I am a living, breathing, walking testimony. Remember that song? And then one of the lines in there is, the enemy did what he could, but the Lord used it for good. So yeah, there's this battle we're in, right? So we're going to take a look at, I'm going to share with you over the next couple weeks, kind of how can we address the problem of evil? What could we say to people? In addition to what you said is good, but how can we make that more convincing? Okay, I'll give you another example. Some suffering is not necessarily due to an evil person like committing a crime against you or something. What about this? My daughter, she's 27 now. Yep, no, she could be 28. Nope, 27. Sorry, my daughter's 27, and she got married. She was 21, and then when they were 23, they were expecting their first child. And maybe 22 or 23, anyway. Expecting their first child, very excited. And I forget how far along you can find out if it's a boy or a girl. It's like 20 weeks or 15 weeks, something like that. So we had this party planned, gender reveal party, where we all find out, all the grandparents and aunts and uncles find out if it's going to be a boy or a girl, right? So the party was going to be, we had it all planned, and like a day or it might have been the day of or the day before was when they had their doctor's appointment, and to find out if it's a boy or a girl. And then we got this party planned, right? So it was like, all right, because they wanted to tell everybody right away. Could have been the day of, or like I said, the day before. Well, they went to the appointment, came back from the appointment, and we got a terrible phone call. We have to cancel the gender reveal party. We're like, what? What is going on? I'll tell you what, there were many tears. It was very, very difficult because she discovered that the baby had this rare problem where all the baby's organs were forming on the outside of the baby's body. And there was zero chance of survival. So for a young couple to, and it's not a genetic thing, it's just a random 1 in 100,000 chance that just happens sometimes. And there's nothing they can do. The baby was still alive though, right? But obviously heartache, right? Well, then they had this choice. The doctors said, well, there's zero chance of survival for the baby, but we recommend an abortion, right? Okay. What do you do, right? Well, it's just heartache, it's just very difficult. They decided to not do an abortion. They're like, we can't stop the baby's heart ourselves. We just don't feel good about it. And so they went through it. My daughter carried the baby as long as she could and had the baby. Of course, the baby died during childbirth. And so it's just difficult. Why do I tell you that story? To ruin your day? No, to make you see, like, man, what do you tell somebody? Now, they're strong Christians, okay? And yes, that difficult trial built their faith. But for some people, right, how did it build their faith? Well, they had to look at, okay, what do we do? Do we risk carrying the baby full term and not having an abortion and complications and stuff like that to stick with our convictions? And yeah, they did. They did that. They did the right thing, I think. And it was very difficult, okay? But some people who aren't believers, they go through something like that, and they're like, how can God let this happen to me, right? Make sense? Right? So it's very, very difficult. Now, we're going to look at some reasons, okay, why the problem of evil can be resolved, okay? So first of all, incomplete claims are tricky, okay? Look at this. Claim. A good God will prevent his child from suffering whenever he has the power to do so. That's a claim that people say. Okay. Well, let's analyze that claim. Is that claim true? Well, I'd say it's incomplete, right? Does God want us to suffer? Not really, all right? But can suffering be used for his plan? Yes. But how does that all work? Okay. Let me make a similar claim. How about a good dad will prevent his child from suffering whenever he has the power to do so? Is that claim true?
Nope.
Okay. Is that claim true? I would say it's not absolutely true. It's incomplete. It's an incomplete statement. Let me give you an example. Okay. What if the dad has very good reasons not to prevent the suffering? Could there be any good reasons?
If it's still developing.
Oh, well, I'm just saying like
being naughty.
okay, oh, like a spanking might be helpful. Yeah, yeah. Discipline.
Making them go through whatever they call.
Oh, yeah. Yes, right. Yes. Did you guys hear that? If a child does something not so smart, children have a habit of doing this, then letting them experience the natural consequence of their actions, even if it's a painful consequence, will cause them to have a better life down the road, right? Yeah. Exactly, yeah, learning from mistakes, exactly. How about even, what about like this? What if the child is sick and the parent brings the child to the doctor and the shot's hurt? That's pain. Well, yeah, but it's a pain that is necessary for the ultimate good. Or a dentist, maybe there's a tooth problem and so the parent has to bring the child to the dentist. And boy, that child, I can't believe you did this to me. Yes, that's what I mean by incomplete claims, right? A good dad, this sounded true though. Some of you were like, yeah, that's true. A good dad will prevent suffering. Wait a second. But when you get the whole picture, what if the child is sick and needs an antibiotic injected? I brought my son. My son Malachi it had pneumonia. It was bad. Like he was, I'm so bad remembering. He was probably 13, 14. And like I was helping him walk. He could not walk into the doctor. And I remember sitting there and the doctor's like, oh man, this is a bad case. And so they brought out a shot, an antibiotic. Usually you can just take pills, but this is like, no, we need to jumpstart this right away. And so he's sitting on the little doctor table thing, right? And the doctor gets the syringe out and basically like you thought it was going to be this, okay, I'll count to 3 kind of thing. The doctor just, boom, right here. He's like, ah! And, okay, now that's like, wow, okay. But it was like, quick, get it over with. That was a painful experience, all right? But it resolved the pneumonia issue, all right, which was very, very bad. So do you see how at first you guys thought, oh, yeah, that's true. But then more to the story, oh, now it's reasonable. Now how about let's revisit this claim. A good God will prevent his child from suffering whenever he has the power to do so, unless there's more going on. Right? If there's more going on, there might be some very good reasons for the bad stuff, the suffering. Make sense? What are those reasons? We're going to take a look at what the Bible says about some of those. Okay? Claim. Because there is so much evil and suffering in the world, there is no good and all-powerful God. That's a claim. That's a false claim. Okay? First of all, the very fact that people can identify evil means that they know there is a morality. What does that mean? It means there's a moral law. If there's a moral law, there must be a moral law giver. Does that make sense? So the very fact that people can say, oh, there's so much evil in the world, the very fact that they can point to something and say, that's evil, how do you know it's evil? Now, the science of evolution would have no answer to that question. Okay. Moral law is actually strong evidence for God's existence. And we'll get into that more in a future week. Okay. For an all-powerful God, unless such a God has good reasons for allowing evil and suffering, that's the key. Okay. So yeah, God might have some good reasons. And that's the important thing. Okay, so if somebody said this to me, I would bring up 2 things. The very fact that you can point to something and call it evil means that there's a moral law and a moral lawgiver. Secondly, maybe there are good reasons for the suffering. Okay, those are 2 lines of arguments that I would recommend taking. All right, so why does this matter? Did I go too fast? Make sure I didn't click off. Why does the problem of evil matter? There's at least, I don't know, there's several reasons, okay? One is based in Colossians chapter 2, okay? Colossians chapter 2, Paul is writing. He's not writing about the problem of evil, but he does say something about arguments that sound good. And this is what he says. He's like, hey, I'm telling you this stuff, whatever stuff he's saying, okay? He said, I'm telling you this so no one may deceive you by fine-sounding arguments, okay? That's one of the reasons I want to talk about the problem of evil with you guys. I don't want you guys to find out years down the road in college, somebody comes and presents a fine-sounding argument that's false and leads you astray, okay? So I don't want anyone here to get tricked by a fine-sounding argument. That's why I'm dealing with the problem of evil and giving you guys some ammunition so you know ahead of time, before you get to the college classroom, before you talk to somebody that's going to bring the problem of evil to you. I'm giving you armor and weapons to fight against fine-sounding arguments, because they only sound fine. They're not actually fine. Okay. Another reason this matters is based in Revelation chapter 2. Okay, in Revelation chapter 2, Jesus is speaking, and he says this: do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. I tell you, the devil will put some of you in prison to test you, and you will suffer persecution for 10 days. Be faithful even to the point of death, and I will give you the crown of life. I will give you life as your victor's crown. Okay. This is Jesus talking. He's saying, look, you are about to suffer some tough stuff. Hang in there. Be faithful. Now, you guys have gone through things in life. We've all gone through difficult situations. But I hate to break it to you. You already know this. This is not a news flash. Life is not always great, right? You ask my daughter Esther, how hard that was for them to have their first child not survive. Like what? Why does this happen? Do you remember when Jesus, he looked over the city of Jerusalem and he wept over it? You remember that in the Bible? Do you remember why he wept? He wept because he knew of the destruction that was coming upon the city. He saw the difficulty, he saw the city, and he's like, oh man, it's just heartache. And that's how I feel. Like there's going to be difficult things. The devil is going to try his best. That's one of the songs, one of the lyrics. I wrote it down this morning. The enemy did what he could, right? But the Lord used it for good. So I want you guys to be prepared. None of us in this room, myself, you guys are not immune to bad things happening to you. And when that happens, I want you to be able to stand firm, okay? I don't want you or me to get discouraged by the bad stuff we have to go through, okay? That's the second reason it matters, okay? And then lastly, the third reason this is important is because of surveys. Surveys, when you survey people and ask them why they are not religious, anybody would know what number one reason is? Suffering and evil in the world. Number one answer. Number two is more of the science stuff. Okay? One of the top reasons given for not believing in God is suffering and evil in the world. Okay. So that relates back to the sermon that we just heard. We want to be able to help. I want to equip you so that you can help people know God. You can help people get over this hurdle, okay, this difficulty, this challenge, okay? That's one of the reasons it matters, okay? Okay, so 3 reasons. First reason this matters is so that you don't get deceived by fine-sounding arguments. Second reason is so that when you go through hard things, you don't lose faith. And third reason, you can help other people overcome their own issues. Now, I need to mention a big warning because we're going to get into reasons why God allows evil and suffering. And so there's an important warning that I need to give you. There's a warning when somebody is in the middle of suffering. Maybe they're struggling with cancer. Maybe they're struggling with whatever. I mean, maybe they're struggling with just being dizzy for 2 months. Maybe they're struggling with whatever it is. A warning here, sometimes it's not the best time to hit them with logical arguments of why their suffering is reasonable. Okay? It's just, sometimes it's better to simply hold their hand and cry with them and just be there for them. Okay? So I just wanted to mention that warning, all right? We're going to look at, some of what we look at is going to be the logical reasons why it is reasonable for an all-loving, all-powerful God to still allow evil and suffering. When someone is really feeling bad, that's not always the time for logic in arguments. Does that make sense? Okay. Sometimes, if the person is also struggling with doubt, some of these things that I'm going to share with you might help. But warning, caution, just show compassion to suffering people first. Okay? Compassion first. Logic waits. All right? And I realize, even going into this, maybe some of you are going through difficult things that I don't really realize. And so, when I tell you, hey, God has good reasons for your problems, it doesn't always sound great to somebody who's having a real problem, So sorry, I'm not trying to be that way, but I am trying to equip you for the 3 reasons, because of the 3 reasons I already mentioned. Okay, so just be aware. Compassion first, logic second. Okay, or maybe third or fourth. Okay, but compassion and love first. Okay. A couple more verses, and then we'll stop for the day. But not knowing God's reasons, can lead to confusion, discouragement, and doubt. Even strong Christians, right? Even strong Christians, when you're going through it, you have confusion, discouragements, and doubts. I mean, you just do. You have a hard time sometimes, all right? Understanding God's reasons can help with confusion, discouragement, and doubts, okay? I want to look at Habakkuk chapter 1 because this is a prophet named Habakkuk. This is a prophet in the Bible. And listen to what he said to God. In chapter 1, verse 2 and 3, look at this. Look at what he said to God. How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Or cry out to you, violence, but you do not save? Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing? You get what Habakkuk is saying here? Like, God, why are you standing by and doing nothing? Why are you tolerating? Why are you letting all this bad stuff happen? Ooh, if Habakkuk can even have those questions, certainly you and I can have those questions. And you know what God did? God didn't strike Habakkuk down with lightning for having those questions either. Okay? These are not sinful questions to have. It's Habakkuk being honest. So I want to encourage you guys, always be honest with God. Okay? Don't bury your confusion, discouragement, and doubt. Talk to God about why you're confused, why you're discouraged, and why you're doubting. And let him help you. And maybe let me help you. Let other people help you. I love Habakkuk because he was honest. Same thing. How about Jeremiah? Now Jeremiah, he's a big, tough prophet guy, right? Jeremiah 12. I could put a lot of quotes from Jeremiah up here, but look at this. Jeremiah chapter 12, verse 1. You are always righteous, Lord, when I bring a case before you. Yet I would speak with you about your justice. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why do all the faithless live at ease? Let that sink in. Do you see? When I read this in the Bible, I'm like, is that allowed? You know what I mean? Like, Jeremiah, dude, God's going to like take his big hammer and squash you for saying that, right? But no, that's not what God did with Jeremiah either, okay? So he's like, yeah, Lord, you're righteous, but you know what? I have a problem with your justice. It's not fair, right? It's not fair that the wicked people prosper. It's not fair that wicked, immoral, God-haters become billionaires. What's up with that, Lord? That's what Jeremiah is asking, okay? It's pretty amazing. And if you read Psalms, you know that that kind of question is all through Psalms too. So the problem of evil is a real problem. And men of God, women of God, struggle with it sometimes, okay? Fortunately, we have, and I'm going to close with this verse here. We have some awesome information in the scriptures because Habakkuk, Jeremiah, David, because these people asked those questions, we have God's replies and God's answers. And we get a little bit, so honestly, we have more information than Jeremiah had, if you think about it. Especially with, we know all the things that Jesus said. Jeremiah, kind of in the dark on that still, because he was before Jesus, okay? James chapter 5, and this is where we will start with next week. We're going to look at Job and look at Job's suffering and why did Job suffer and what we can learn about that so that we can be equipped to understand the problem of evil. So let's close with these two verses here. James chapter 5, verse 10, 11. This is what he's writing. He's saying, brothers and sisters, as an example of patience in the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. The prophets, like, Habakkuk, Jeremiah, okay. As you know, we count as blessed those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. Okay, so we're going to look at how suffering and evil actually leads to compassion and mercy, and we're going to be strengthened, I think, in our faith because of it, instead of being rattled by fine-sounding claims and arguments. Okay, so that's where we'll pick up with next week. Any quick questions you guys have?